All right, welcome everybody. It is October 11th, 2025. Last time I did a show with Gary, I said 2027 by accident. I didn't even realize it till afterward. But it's October 11th, 2025. This is the Space Water Podcast, episode 73. And we got the one and only, the man, Gary Wayne in the house, Genesis6Conspiracy.com. One of my favorite men to interview in the world, everybody. Me and Gary have been doing shows almost actually a decade now. It's just incredible how time flies. Once again, it's Genesis6Conspiracy.com. Gary has joined us once again today to discuss an incredible topic, the Hollow Earth, which I also think he'll be featuring, he'll be doing in a conference of his own. I think Gary will get more into it. But Gary, thank you for joining the Space Border podcast today. It's a pleasure to have you back on.
Well, thank you for inviting me back and really happy to be back. And yes, when we get together, it's a good time. So time flies, even maybe a year or two into the future. But I
Yeah.
don't think we're saying we're prophets by any sort of measure. But yeah, it's crazy how long we've been working together and how many topics that we've covered. And that the topics that we tend to get into and ways we get into it because of the research we both do tends to be not covered anywhere else. But maybe after a couple of years of us talking about a certain sort of area, then it starts to become a little bit more popular. So, but yeah, it's good to get things on the table and to get people thinking,
Yeah.
because we have to be thinking. We have to be challenging the status quo. We have to be able to. I just have some error messages coming up for some strange reason.
Weird.
I got rid of them. So we have to be able to challenge the status quo, because if the status quo is correct, it can stand the criticism. If it can't stand it, then it's propaganda, it's misinformation, it's disinformation, and it's designed to dumb us down for a notorious reason, so to speak. So, not that we're going to express conspiracies, but
Yeah.
it has, if it's got control of the world hegemony, then
Yeah.
it has to be able to back it up. Otherwise, it's not a proper system that and it's doing things and leading us in directions we ought not to go.
I couldn't agree with you more, Gary. I not to say specifics, but I had an issue at the conference I was at this weekend, which is we should be people should be able to, if you especially if you're presenting information to people, you should be able to face adversity and challenges to your work because that gets you a chance to show you the
Yeah,
depth of what you know.
I agree. And not everybody knows everything, and
Yeah.
nobody knows everything. And so there's going to be areas where we can learn from, or areas that maybe we could talk a little bit more about. So it's one thing to have an opinion and research and speculation in what your conclusion is. It's another thing to assert that opinion over everybody else's
Well said.
research and opinion and belief.
Yeah.
So be careful for people who say this is fact, and anybody who says differently is a heretic or is a liar or whatever the term that they want to use, depending on what venue that they're in, because they will attack the messenger because they can't attack the message of the person that is challenging them.
So true. Oh, Gary, that was so well put. I that's so well put. And I cherish the time that we work together, and it's a pleasure for me to have you here.
Yeah.
And I find you one of the most humble people to interview. And over the years, you see, most people when they come to do a podcast with us, they come in to hear you. So a lot of people at first didn't want to hear me talk, right? So
Yeah,
I,
I
I,
know.
I
That's
found and it was hard for me not to talk so much when I first started interviewing you because I would tend to cut you off here and there because I got so excited, about what
well,
you said. So over the years, I've learned to, do a little bit of a better job and to say my piece here and there. But people got to understand it is kind of for both of us because we both
yeah.
have a lot to
Well,
share.
and I do like to be on shows where people have things to bring to the table as the host, and I like it more as a discussion, not as a lecture or a straight answer and question. Although you know, and I know in a lot of shows, you're expected to fill airtime.
Yeah. Well, some hosts don't have the capability of doing it, so it's just better to let you
Yeah.
do your thing, you know?
Yeah. So, but I enjoy the discussion. I enjoy, let's push the envelope. Let's get
Yeah.
information on the table. Let's discuss. So we don't have to argue. We don't have to debate,
Yeah.
but let's get more information on the table.
Yeah, and we don't have to agree on everything, but we tend to
Yeah.
always find common ground and we
Yep.
share what we think and let people decide.
Yeah.
We don't have to hash it out on the video, hash it
Yeah.
out live on video, but you
Yeah,
know, it's
we have no and should not have ability to have that much power over
yeah,
people to force them to believe what we think. What
100%.
we can do is try and role model our message and present good information and then let them decide, as you say.
100%. So this topic that we chose for today, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I thought you had mentioned like a couple of weeks ago that you were going to be actually doing a conference related to Hollow Earth
Yeah, I not a conference.
or some sort of presentation, right?
Yes, I did a filming set of interviews. So imagine it as a History Channel ancient
Oh,
aliens
wow.
show.
Nice.
So I was brought in, and I said right up front, I don't profess myself as a Hollow Earth expert. And I don't even like the term Hollow Earth, and we'll kind of get into it. But
Yeah.
what I told them is in my research, what I found is it's one of those common legacies that's on every continent all around the world. It's like giants, it's like the flood story, it's like pyramids, it's that hidden history, and that there are many different niches in Hollow Earth that seem maybe that they aren't related, but once you understand what connects them all is the polytheist and monotheist religions that's in all cultures around the earth. Now you understand that there is something more to this, that we shouldn't just say, oh, a hollow earth, let's throw it away. And then nobody ever really sort of looks at, well, where does a hollow earth sort of terminology comes from? So what they liked about what I could bring to the table, and we'll see what happens with the pilot in part of the second show that we did the recording for, is whether it goes forward or not, because it had the funding to do the producing of it, but whether or not it goes to the next level, that's a whole different ball game. So we'll see what happens with that. It was kind of fun to do, kind of interesting, but it was difficult as well because the people asking the questions, they don't know the topic that well, so they have no idea the size of question that they're asking, and they want you to do it in 1 to 2 sentences, and it's like, well, there's no way. I'll shorten it down and as best as I can, and I don't tend to do
Yeah.
things without a lot of detail anyway. So
It is pretty
it
broad.
it's an interesting sort of process. So yeah, we'll see what happens with it. And again, I like to bring credibility to topics that people would sort of brush aside. And so again, that's kind of what I was trying to do with that aspect of it. And typically because I bring a biblical side to things as well, which again, this is in all religions around the world. There needs to be a biblical aspect to it in terms of the information.
Yeah, for
Typically,
sure.
they basically say, no, we don't want any of that in the show. So I go from a short list to off the list.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, but I try and remain true to my values because I think it's that common history we have to get on the table. And
You would
so we
expect if
need
you're bringing
all,
Gary Wayne to have that part of it.
yeah, you would think, but most people will say no. Or if they find out I'm on the panel, they don't want me on it. So I get kicked off at times that way as well. So again, I'm not looking to be a History Channel star. I'm just trying to get information out, and that's what I do.
Oh, unfortunately, nowadays they don't want high level research because most people, when they don't understand what the guy's talking about, they get intimidated by it. They want entertainment where they could just lay back and enjoy it and not think too much.
Yeah, well, I think it's more the other contributors don't want to look like they don't know as much in certain areas. Well,
Yeah.
but that's why I say you have to put the ego aside. There's going to be people on
Yep.
there who talk about things I hope they don't ask me about, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I probably wouldn't make the cut for that clip anyways, because they just know more. They're going to have a better answer. Well, because you can't know everything.
Yeah. I mean, especially you spend so much time in the areas that you work in. How could you have time for the other?
Yeah, it's
It
just
would be impossible.
well,
Yeah.
and to stay married.
Yeah. Yes, that's true too. Yeah. That's a whole nother thing. Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. It's just, yeah, because you can't live a normal life and do this kind of research for the most part. There's got to be,
Yeah,
some kind of balance.
there has to be. Yeah.
And this is a huge topic, the Hollow Earth. I've read several different books that have various things over the year. Have you ever got into this book? They read the Kingdom of Agartha?
I've done quick searches through it. It's certainly the one. I think that was the one that came out in about what 1960 by
Uh
Walter Seichmeister.
no, this one is from originally 1886. This one. This is from Marquis Alexandre Saint Ives de Alexandre, the Journey into Hollow Earth, a Kingdom
No,
of Agartha.
no, I don't have his book.
This is really good. This one was from 18 my the reprint that I have here was reprinted in 2008, but it was from the original 1886
Okay.
French.
Yep.
And it was
Yeah.
originally under the title Mission de Elende in Europe, and it was
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
Saint Ives de Alevre is the name of the guy.
Yeah. I'm trying to connect my mind on that.
Well,
Is
I could
that the
give you
one
I
that
could give
is out of the book of? No, that's a different one I'm thinking of.
I could give
So
you a quick
the
quick
Sons of God. But anyways, it's going to have similar information as the other sources, I think. But yeah, go into it.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was basically like a spiritual, technologically advanced subterranean kingdom that was beneath the Himalayas, and
Yeah.
they were ruled by a sovereign guy like a Brahmatma,
Yeah.
and they called it Agartha, and
Yep.
it had to do with like stone engraved information, like they had
Hmm.
libraries of stone under there,
Yep.
and
Yep.
supposedly that the secrets and the wisdom that's held beneath there is only going to be revealed when all the religions begin to honor their sacred teachings and people are ready for it, and so it's yeah, I mean the guy is was an occultist. It says right here at the beginning in here in 1884 the French occultist Saint Ives de Alevdre, who lived from 1842 to 1909, decided to take lessons in Sanskrit, and then, having published his definitive work on the secret history of the world called Mission de Jews, the mission of the Jews, and then he
Yeah.
started to do all this, and it talks
Yeah.
about,
Yeah, and I was not aware of that book. It sounds interesting. I am aware and did a little bit of work in looking at, and again, these are difficult if they're in French, and it's sometimes difficult to get English um, copies of this. So Louis Jacoliot from
oh yeah,
1873's book, La Field de Deux, right, is talking about the same types of things, but he's saying that he used documents from 15,000 years that were old, whether it's accurate or not. But
wow,
that's what he said. So there's a commonality in here as what they talk about. And there's also a connection because this is, as you talked about in Agartha, which I think is the same as Shambhala or a rival. If you look at the dualities of the good gods and evil gods
yeah,
and two
interesting,
different locations, and then we get that sort of thing in the Book of Enoch as well, showing a duality of that as well. But this is a home of the King of the world. We're not talking about the gods now. This is a king, right? And so you and I did a show on King Sudras, or not a whole show, but he's come up several times. That
yeah, the
was
Ten
an
Kings,
antediluvian king in the Vedas, and he conquered 10 tribes. The standard 10 is usual in it, in the antediluvian period, 10 kings, 10 empires, like in the Atlantean Empire, and as it connects to the end time with 10 kings, 10 horns, 10 toes for that reemergence of Atlantis. But getting back to this King Sudras, that is in, makes his home in, and he's not actually named in the uh, the various Vedas of of India as that individual, but in both the Buddhist and the Hindu version, they're talking about this king that lives in the underworld, and he's known as Lord Maitreya. And that comes out in the Kala Chakra Tantras and the I'm trying to come up with the other one. It's a Pura
The
uh,
Puranas.
the Pranas. That's the word I'm looking for. So we have this location of this king, and Lord Maitreya is Mitra, is encapsulated in that, which is the god that incarnates into Mithra or Maitreya in the end time.
So
And so
crazy.
you wonder what the heck is going on in these commonalities of Shambhala and Agartha. Are they the same or are they rivals?
Yeah, it could
Um,
be like the Asura and Devas
yes,
places. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So just thought I would sort of throw that out that this is an understanding that we would take biblically in the earth, not necessarily in the physical earth. That's one aspect of it as it comes out in the hollow sort of nature, but also could be in another dimension
Yeah, that's what I
or
wanted to talk to you about.
or both.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I booked. Because is it that the most likely the way I see it is that it's you can access it through underground tunnels, but these underground tunnels lead into like another dimension.
Yeah,
It's sort of like another reality that you have to slip into, you
yeah,
know?
exactly. And but we also have stories, legends, mythos of reptilians living in tunnels in the physical
Yeah,
aspect of it. We have underground cities as well. And as you
yeah,
say, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of locations around the world where you would access
yeah,
places like Arcata or
yeah. Have you ever
the
seen like in India, Gary? They have these step wells, and
no,
they're like these huge step wells. One was called like the Well of Shesha,
yeah,
and they make the and at the bottom is like the square pool, and
yeah,
supposedly at the bottom of the pool is the entrance to Patala.
wow,
You know,
wow,
it's like it's these huge, yeah, and I mean they'll do these mantras and open up the doorway, and you know in Italy Lake Nemi is described the same way.
yep.
You know, it's only
Well,
19 miles from the Vatican.
it's again, it's common in the mythos of portals and access to the other world or and win. So when you get into like King Arthur and the Grail stories, you have the ladies of the lake, which were guardians to the portals to the other world through the water.
Yeah, it's the same thing in Italy. In Lake
Yeah.
Nemi, she's called Egeria.
Yeah.
She's the lady of the lake, and
Yeah.
it's the same thing. It's incredible.
And along with that, you have the sea as the ocean, as the abyss, where people live in it and underneath it, which is also sort of connected as part of that water allegory to the
Yeah,
other world. But there would be many, many, many ones that, and again, we have in the alien mythos these, UAPs coming out of the ocean somehow, some way, from somewhere.
exactly. Well, this is perfect to lead into because I think this what I don't like the word term Hollow Earth too much either, but I think this is sort of like the realm of the Fae. You know,
It
they
is.
enter into this world from this dimension, from this area.
Yes, through fairy domens,
Yes, right? Yep.
portals.
They're right on top of those entrance spots, right? And the
Yeah,
megalithic sites. And this is why even in Sardinia, you
yeah,
supposedly giants built these things, but there's the
yeah,
entrance is very small.
yeah. And fairy queens, the women, the ladies of the lake in King Arthur is an allegory for the same thing because it's
Yeah.
got to do with the Shea people, or Sede or Seed. There's a thousand different ways. They also called it Maynell, the land of promise, and Targina. It's just
Yeah.
some of the different
Yeah.
names of the same sort of place. And you were mentioning the Roman versions. You get three of those ones that I know of. You have Avernus, you have Inferi, and then you have Orcos. And what's interesting about Orcos, that seems to me, I think, where Tolkien took the orcs from, who come out of the earth in those wars.
Yeah. That's very interesting. Wow. Wow.
Just
You know,
again, because none of these names and things come out of that we see in literature come out of nowhere. They're not making them up.
yeah. Yeah, and then and Slavic they have so many too. They have like the Rusalki.
Yeah.
There's one called the Rusalki in Slavic. They're like these fair-headed
Yep.
women that come from the lake and
Yeah.
things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Common,
Vaginoi.
common.
I think another one's called the Vaginoi. It's another one that comes out of the waters and
Yeah,
yeah.
so let's just throw out to get this term hollow earth on the table just to clean
Yeah,
it
let's
up
do
a
that.
bit. And then we can go forward so that we, take some of people's concerns a little bit
Yeah,
away
I
from
think
it.
there's a
So
lot of misconceptions just with the name itself.
yeah, from a scientific and mystical writing perspective connected, you had a fellow by the name of Edmund Halley in the 17th century who used the term hollow earth, although some people say he didn't, but it seems like he did. And his theory was the earth and he was looking for the variations in the magnetic issues, understanding the poles and issues with magnetism and why they vary in certain
Oh
places, what
wow, yeah.
affects magnetism. So he's coming kind of out of a place of that, but understand the 17th century and the 1600s, he's a noble elite, probably secret society polytheist. And so he's also being looking from that lens in terms of what he's looking to sort of discover to explain a lot of the compass issues. And he described it as nested shells, like different layers that was hollow in the middle. So that's kind of one of the sources, but I don't think he made that term up himself. In fact, I'm betting he didn't. And other people who do research on it, whether or not it was Leonard Euler or other people, we won't go into, but a good one is Athanius Kircher, if people aren't familiar with him, he
Oh
named it
yeah.
Mundus Subterranus, a system of tunnels that goes into this world underneath the earth. But the Book of Enoch is, I think, where that term hollow earth comes from. And here's how I get there. I'm just going to look at some notes down on here on it. And in Enoch 22, 1 and 2, there's a place of prisons and another place with great mountains and ravines and stuff like that. And in verse 2, it says a place with four hollow places deep and wide. So the word hollow. And also in 25, 1 through 7, I'm sorry, in 22, verse 3 again, it's going to have hollow places as the division of the location of the dead or the spirits. And I think that's probably where it comes from.
Oh yeah.
And also these hollow places were for the spirits of the dead, the shed in Hebrew, and Rapha, as you take that back to the original language.
Yeah, I looked it up right where you're talking about
It,
it. Wow, yeah, how smooth are the hollow places and look deep and dark. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, and it describes these great locations and stuff. Plus, there's a place that's also described there for when the god of heaven comes into the abyss as well. And there's
Oh, it
seven
says that
mountains.
they've been
Yeah,
created for this very purpose, that the
yeah,
spirits of the souls. Wow.
yeah. So when we're talking about this now, it starts to make sense that there's an other world and there's a place of the gods, there's the place of the disembodied spirits of the giants, and there could be places in the physical world or a combination of both for each of other different kinds of people. And so I just wanted to put that sort of on the table in terms of some of the uh, science and where that actual name hollow comes from. I would prefer a different term for it, but I think people should understand there's sources for it that doesn't come from kooks.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying
Yeah.
Hollow Earth people are kooks. I'm just trying to
I
make a
get it.
point with
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So sometimes I get a little bit loose. I try and stay tight on those things, but I'm
Some of
not
the
here
flat
to. I'm
earthers
not.
are kooks, but now I'm just
Well, I'm not here to insult anybody. Believe me. Um, so yeah, and when we have locations of great rivers, mountain ranges, great depths of ravines. This is what is talked about in polytheism all over the world. We're talking about Shambhala and Agartha, but there are other places, and the Sumerians talked about Nibiru. And a lot of people think Nibiru is a planet
Yeah, I
in
don't agree
outside
with
the
that.
solar system. No, if you look at the translations, Nibiru, it means a planet and a place of crossing, but it doesn't mean planet Earth. So that's where they sort of go with that, but it's a crossing. It's as like a bar to cross over.
Huh.
A bar is in Ezekiel 39, where you have the travelers
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
Gog War that come across a
I think
bar.
they got from that. I think that came from Zachariah Sitchin. I really
It
do.
did. It
I think
did.
it did.
A
And
lot of
and
it did.
and
The
he's
word
is
the word
all
for the
truth.
physical earth in Sumerian is Nibruki with a K, or Nibrugi, because some translations of the G and the K
Oh,
as the
interesting.
same. And
Yeah.
that means the physical earth where Nibiru is located, but not located in the same spot. It's in
Yeah.
the earth and in another dimension. So
Very
it's
interesting.
you have to sort of look at how the ancients viewed things and how they defined things. And for other people who are looking from a biblical perspective, it may say, maybe translated as passengers as well in Ezekiel 39. So depending on which translation that you're using. And again, this was a home of its ruler. Now, now it's not clear to me that that's being talked about in terms of a physical king like a King Sudras or a Lord Maitreya, or it's the gods, but that's where they're ruling from. Typically in Nibiru, that's where the gods rule from. So I would say that might be more of the interdimensional location versus the physical location.
Yeah, it was interesting too. You said but that guy was into the magnetic because even
Yeah,
within the Earth is where the magnetic field lines come
yeah,
from, from the core of the Earth. Like,
yeah. And it makes sense if he has some polytheist doctrine behind him. He understands ley lines. He understands there's a system and grids,
very cool.
right, that align and work through energy things throughout the earth. So they're looking for that. And you know, uh, Euler was, he contributed to a lot of math as he got into it. Actually, invented the pi, not invented, but coined the pi glyph for 3.14. So
Oh, I
again,
didn't know that.
yeah. And so when he worked on it, and he was working on this again for probably science, but in polytheism, science and religion are
Fused.
fused, exactly. And he was working on the planet's shape. And he did experiments to try and understand the shape. Well, when you're into math and when you're into shape, he's pioneering into quantum
Yeah.
level and interdimensional travel. So,
So cool.
as he said, he thought there might be a sign or theorized there might be a sun 600 miles in diameter that's in the earth that sort of heats the earth. And and also there's a lot of mountain ranges within the earth as well, which now starts to get you back to what Enoch is saying. So again, there's a lot of commonality to what the scientists are working to do and what the religious texts are talking about. And
Yeah, I
that's
think they're
not a
representing that right on here. See the sun in the middle?
Yeah, I think you're right on that. Yeah. I mean, you could look at that as the Magna Core, but that's
Yeah.
not how you would represent a Magna Core,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That
Very
would be more
interesting.
in how you would represent a sun in an ancient glyph.
Yeah. Like an inner sun. Yeah.
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 So, yeah, again, none of this is coincidental, and they will put their belief system in taciturn imagery and language that they know most don't understand.
That's for sure. Have you ever heard of the guy that invented the Cray computer, the supercomputer, Seymour Cray?
Yeah, I've heard of him. I haven't done any research on him though, but
Well,
he's
he's the
I'm
father of supercomputing. Well, there's a famous,
uh,
I guess it's possibly apocryphal legend, right?
Yeah,
It's Seymour Cray. He said that he would dig tunnels beneath his house
yeah,
when he encountered like difficult problems about his designs and he couldn't like figure out his design,
yeah,
that he would pass his time by digging tunnels beneath his house.
yeah,
And when he would dig these tunnels, the deeper he went, eventually elves would come into
yeah,
his office from these tunnels and solve his
yeah.
engineering problems.
Wow. Elves, elementals.
Yeah.
Biblically, Galatians 4, the ones who enslave us in the world, in
He said
Colossians,
it was his favorite. They
the
asked him.
rudiments that
I've seen the
enslave us in
interview.
the world.
His
Yeah.
favorite hobby was tunneling beneath
Yeah.
his house.
Well, again, in the when we look at the four groups of elementals, that's standard all around
Oh
the
yeah.
earth. In all religions, there's mention of them. And I named two passages in the New Testament to show that there's, I'm not saying for Christians that we should be worshiping elementals. I'm saying it recognizes the existence of angels, disembodied spirits, giants, and the gods, as in fallen angels.
Yeah.
It's just viewing things through a different lens than the polytheist religions did.
100%. 100%. What about, yeah, it made me think about this book, The Coming Race. Have you ever,
No, I've not read that one.
oh my God. So this is by Edward Bullier and Lord
Yeah,
Light.
yeah.
And it was you got this is another one. I forgot all about it till just now. I don't know when it was originally written, but it's about a race of Vril-ya, like these,
Vril-ya is in Vril.
yeah, Vril-ya, and they're like
Something in the
these,
blood that means.
yeah, they're like reptile humanoids that live beneath the ground in a
Well,
subterranean
those would be,
layer.
yeah, and that would, I would put those as salamanders of the elementals. They're the fourth group, which are larger than a human, according to it, and they're reptilian. They live in tunnels beneath the earth. We don't know exactly when or how they were created. They could be, but we do know they're created in what comes out of them. They're created from the gods, just like the elementals are, the little ones. And there's three groups of those, and they all have an individual um, element that they're associated with in polytheism:
Yeah,
earth, wind, air, fire. And so the salamanders, they're taller than humans, but not as big as giants. So what are they? Um, could it be the Nahash, the serpents of Eden, that perhaps some of the fallen angels saved, just as they possibly saved some giants? Although I prefer a second incursion, I leave the possibility open that the fallen angels who have free choice saved some of their giants. Where? Not only possibly on arcs, as in the Epic of Gilgamesh, but also in the earth, in another dimension in the earth, and or off the earth,
wow,
right? Because they would have that sort of capability. But now you see Hollow Earth sort of entering in on how some of these creatures might survive. So if giants survived, did the fallen angels save some of the serpents race in Eden, who are created before Adam because they exist before? They're Nahash. As you take that back to its source, Nahash Hebrew word means a sorcerer, a necromancer. He's a priest of the polytheist religions, the polytheist belief system, and he's there with Satan's help to
like a
try and
druid.
bring Eve and Adam down. And he's a beast of the field. They're created before humans on day six, and I look at day six in the Eden account. I don't want to spend too much time on this rabbit hole that I just got myself into, but um, they are not the same creation because the details are different. And Adam's a second creation. So in 2 Peter 3, where it has a day is 1,000 years, and we don't get the sun and the moon in the firmament until about day 4, right? Um, so if a day
Yeah.
is 1,000 years, you could have had the serpent created 1,000 years before the people of day 6, and then sometime later, we don't know how long later, you would have Adam being recreated because the whole earth went polytheist again.
Wow.
It's just,
Interesting.
and again, I'm speculating, connecting facts and connecting those dots, but all of a sudden it says, I'm thinking about this Nahash is an unaccounted for being. that's created in day 6 as part of the beasts of the field, or corrupted shortly thereafter with DNA manipulation or whatever the fallen angels did. And they were servants, and the kingly servants in Gnosticism of the fallen angels or the gods. And did they save that in a hash? Or is this a smaller reptilian giant that's in the tunnel? Or is it something different, like in a creation of the elementals? But we have 3 reptilian sources
Yeah. And then
biblically
and
to
then
get there.
and in the flood, like these reptilians would be adaptable to water.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely they would be.
So
So so even if they were just in underground cities like at Petra or Gobekli Tepe or
yeah,
other places around the world, they could survive in water to for a certain degree as long as the water was flowing or
yeah.
they had some ability to create some air. But
Oh,
um, all of a sudden, you have possibilities that just by trying to ask hard questions about who are these people, who are these beings, whether or not it's from a scientific lens, whether or not it's from a polytheist lens, or whether it's from a monotheist lens, once you start to ask those questions, who are they really and how did they come about and what was their role, you
yeah.
start to get answers as you put information in from all of the accounts all around the world.
And then did they escape the worldwide cataclysms by going within the earth as well?
Yes, and especially
Mhm.
interdimensionally. That I mean you could save
For sure.
unlimited numbers and
But
kinds.
but then the question comes up, God would have known that this was an alternative route for them.
Yeah, yes, because he's Alpha Omega.
Yeah,
So he
he would
knew
have
what they
known.
were going to do, but he's giving them free will. But from a Christian perspective, God is greater than free will and free choice. He knows the beginning from the end, no matter how many incalculable permutations that would have in terms of the choices being made, but they would know, but they would know that they were going to do that. But it also further indicts, from a monotheist perspective, the crimes of the rebellious angels,
Huh.
right? It's part of the process. And so Adam being created in that sort of context as a second creation, having spirit breathed into him in a different way, has a different commission. He's the Adamites become the resolution to the angelic rebellion, which is why they have to first try and bring them down in Eden, and then you create these spurious offspring to destroy Adamites from the face of the earth.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
much so that that technology that's talked about in other religions is actually shown within the understanding of the flood story, with the uh, earth being corrupted and all flesh being corrupted. Everything on the earth was corrupted. And that's the Hebrew word shakath, which means to pervert, to ruin, to destroy. So all flesh was corrupted. And by inference, because everything on the earth, all the animals and all the plant genomes were corrupted, which is why God would only call certain representations from each species, each kind, to start anew that didn't have DNA manipulated by the fallen angels and the giants. And so the Chimera understanding of polytheism now brings
Yeah.
Genesis 6 to life. And the violence isn't violence with swords. I mean, just think of the buildings that they built that we can't do today, whether it's Machu Picchu or the pyramids or you go all around the world. They had great knowledge that we're just catching up today, as witnessed by our primitive level of DNA understanding compared to what was done before the flood.
For sure.
So Azazel in the book of Enoch is the one who provides all the arts and crafts of war to the giants, which means not just weaponry, but also the strategy that goes with it and the ability and the skill craft to make weapons, and not just swords, unlimited angelic weaponry that would have destroyed the earth by
Yeah.
fire. Now it starts to make sense in their versions again in the Polychronicon and histories of Freemasonry, where they created these 2 pillars
A fire.
for the location for the knowledge and technology hidden under that they hid under the Great Pyramid that they
Oh yeah.
attribute to the knowledge that Enoch, son of Cain, developed to build before the flood. So one was designed to survive a flood, so it would float.
Joaz and
Yeah.
Boaz or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the
yeah,
representations in the Masonic halls. Yes,
yeah.
and so the other one was designed to survive a catastrophe by fire. So they didn't know which kind of catastrophe, fire or flood. They only knew catastrophe was coming, so they prepared for both. Why? Because nothing is new under the sun. So going back to First Peter 3, in the beginning, there's this fire that was in the destruction, where the earth that was in the water, out of the water, perished. Well, in the flood that people say that that's referring to, there's no fire and the whole earth didn't perish, just the animals and the plants on the earth perished. So something caused the earth to perish and the firmament to collapse. That's why you would have that renewal of the earth, as Psalms 104 talks about. I know I'm moving quickly through here, but I want to
I'm
keep to
following
the
you. I'm interested.
yeah into what we were talking about. And so this destruction is also reserved for the end time. So what happens in the time of the flood, the power of the giants and all of these other creatures that would be going interdimensionally, as the polytheist accounts talks about, in the earth, and in the earth in another dimension, in these accounts around the world, they have the Adamites at the point of being totally corrupted, as Genesis talks about, and having them at a point where they're going to wipe them from the face of the earth. How? Through fire. They had that weaponry that's described in the Vedas that was going to fit more into Genesis 1, 1, and 2. But this is the knowledge that got passed down. And so God intercedes. Why? Because that destruction by fire is reserved for the end time. And he wants to ensure all the names of the book of life have an opportunity to have their names left in or have it blotted out.
You think this is the same fire that Elijah wielded?
I'm thinking not. Um, but I certainly see where you're coming from, because in the seven heavens, as Enoch talks about, and we get kind of rough rudimentary to the seven heavens, they're not different heavens as polytheism understands. They're gates and portals within uh, the heavens. It could be within the firmament or it could be outside the firmament, but it's not from the dimension of heaven of God. It's not from so.
Yeah,
But that doesn't mean that from those other storehouses or gates there isn't a connection
yeah.
where you would so. But anyways, the fire that comes from heaven could either be using things like physical asteroids, meteorites, or it could be actually a creation of weaponry within those gates or portals. So Elijah does bring fire down to the earth. False prophet will do the same thing as the Elijah for Antichrist, Lord Maitreya.
I mean, it could be
So
literally like a cosmic ray or like some sort of solar storm or something.
yeah, and what we also don't know is what type of weaponry do the gods and the fallen angels have hidden behind the moon or in another area in our galaxy that could be used to bring those weaponry forward that they used in the past. I mean, we don't know any, but you're right to say that fire coming down from heaven, either by Elijah or by the false prophet, is that the same? It might be. It would just don't have enough details. I can only speculate
Yeah,
on
I
it.
mean, you had Elijah, who's supposed to be the good guy, and then you had even what was it, Inanna or Ishtar, who had the
Yeah,
Melamu headdress that rained down fire on the
yeah,
battlefield. So
yeah.
it's a technology of the gods. It's
It is. It is. It is. And we should expect that to be the level of technology that we're trying to catch up to from a world perspective to get us to that point of destiny, to make war again against the God of the Bible, as talked about in Revelation 12,
yeah,
and is talked about in the Vedas, what happened sometime in the distant past. And all of it's relevant because whether it's secular, we have to learn from our history, whether it's polytheism or monotheism, we have a same similar adage. And I'll use the biblical one: nothing is new under the sun. What was will be again. And the understanding of this only brings grief and sorrow.
yeah, that's great. And I think you should get a t-shirt that says not making a choice is still a choice.
It's still a choice. Yeah.
I love that. Love that. Well,
So
there's a in Hebrew, I think the word in the Bible is a phrase called Ma'im Chaim. I think that's how you say it, Ma'im Chaim, which translate as living liquid. And there's some spots in the Bible where a living liquid is supposed to come from beneath, like the Temple Mount. That's the part. It's supposed to
yeah, the
from
living
beneath.
waters, right, from
Yeah,
the
the living
fountain.
waters. How do you is this coming from some dimension within Earth, or how do you think about this? What's your opinion on this?
Well, in all of the accounts of Hollow Earth and the accounts of Enoch in Sheol, as would sort of be understood, and also Tartarus is another term, but that's more isolated to the prison aspect
Or
of it.
Gehenna, right? Gehenna
Yeah,
is like yeah.
yeah, that's more of an I think that's more of an allegory for the lake of fire
Yeah.
because of the
Like I know they have
rituals
like
that took place
compartments,
in,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Compartments of Gehenna or something.
yeah.
Yeah.
So when I look at that, we have this great river, this great fountain, as the Book of Enoch talks about, but this great river that flows through these different areas in other accounts. And so there might be something to that as that living water that is going to be accessed um, in the future time in Revelation 21 and 22, that this living water is going to flow out. And so this somehow creates the immortality. It's like an elixir, right? So again, the polytheist version of this is the fountain of youth that comes down in the mythology. And again, all of that is generally not located on the surface, but you could get a well or an access to that would flow out of one of
Tap
these
into it.
chambers. And it's not that there aren't different water locations, there are, but the inference on all of these accounts, monotheist or polytheist, is there's a specific water source that has powers that can be used to sustain life in ways that we don't even understand, and to create immortality through that somehow, some way. So there could be something there that's in place to do that. But again, it's you get some hints at that, and you have more questions than you get answers, and you get that in monotheism and in polytheism when they're getting into that topic. So there's a mystery there.
Yeah, there sure is a mystery there. Sure is. It's very interesting when we get
Yeah.
into that. And then
So and just to sort of nail it for some people, what I'm talking about is Enoch 22:2, a place with four hollow places deep and wide with a fountain river of water between. So now you have the river and you also have a fountain.
yeah.
And now when you're talking about the fountain of youth, you're seeing a connection of monotheism and polytheism, possibly talking about the same allegory.
Wow. Did you ever I never did the research on the background of Ponce de Leon. Was he like an occultist?
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
figured.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I'm not saying that in a derogatory way. I'm just
No, I get
saying
it.
you see the reflection of their biases, as with all of us, and how we express things. No
Yeah.
matter how objective you try and be, there's still going to be, some
I
of
mean, because
that.
I wouldn't assume he just went on a mission like that just from hearsay. He had to have had some
Yeah, exactly.
knowledge passed down. Yeah.
Yes. What was the motivation and what was the inspiration from information that was supplied? There
Yeah.
has to be a source there. And, when you look at Jules Verne, I mean, why would he write this and best-selling, fiction book in 1867? He's talking about these volcanic tubes that reach to the center of the earth that people are traveling through to get there, right? To
Yeah.
find this other world.
Wow. Yeah.
And
And
then
then
you have this also parallel mythos of where dinosaurs might still live is in this inner earth. I can't remember the various literatures that go with that, but I know it's a quite popular Hollywood type of theology. So,
Well, Admiral Byrd, I mean, supposedly entered into
yeah.
another type of world.
Well, yeah. So what he and unfortunately, most of his stuff is classified
Yep.
still. So it's hard. So there's a lot of speculation, and it's really hard to.
My cousin has his autograph.
Oh,
He
excellent.
has it.
And
He had bought it. Yeah.
so what Admiral Byrd did, for people who may not be familiar, he explored first the North Pole and then later the South Pole. And he seemed to have found an entrance in 1947 into this hollow earth or this another dimension that was a massive place that was offering, and here's where it goes more into speculation because we don't know exactly what happened, that had the possibility of supplying endless life and endless knowledge. Godhood, right? That's what they're talking about here. So he went in 1956 and found the entrance in Antarctica. And now you enter into that all the Nazis' interest in Antarctica. And you look at the interest, and they actually built a naval base there. And they were in search of Grail Hollows, lost ancient knowledge, the Ark of the Covenant, you name it, because they wanted to bring back and re-engineer beings to be like the people of Tula or Asgard or Atlantis, blonde-haired, blue-eyed Aryans, giants, right? And they're trying to create the new man, and they're searching the world, including Tibet, for the access into Arcata, but they didn't seem very successful on that one from what my research phones. But when you set up a base in Antarctica and they use their, their only naval advantage in a significant way, the submarines, to do that, and they're doing this research towards the end of the year, end of the war, and they badly need those submarines to stop the supplies coming from North America to fund the Allied war effort. And you spend all of that on this long shot, this Hail Mary, so to speak. That's an interesting metaphor I picked there, but I won't go into that one. To get technology, probably inspired from how and where they got the knowledge to create the rocket engine, the jet engine, single winged aircraft, tanks of nature that we're still using today in terms of design, and this perhaps bell shaped thing that was interdimensional travel. Um, and that they spent a
Yeah, for
lot of
sure.
time there. What were they looking for? Well, they wanted to be able to win the war. They wanted to create the new millennium, the Third Reich, the thousand-year reign. He was trying to fulfill that polytheist Lord Maitreya, and he looked at himself, Hitler did, as the Fuhrer, as an antichrist or as a Messiah type figure. So this location now has all of these people parading down. There's all sorts of scientific things going on down there. You have politicians going down there. You have military people going, and they're going from all nations around the earth, and they won't tell you what they saw there.
Yeah, and
Only,
whatever they learned from the Nazis, Admiral Byrd took that and went.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
so what
Wow.
we are told is the knowledge that is going to come out of there is going to overturn every preconceived notion. It's that hidden
Jeez.
history, but expect it not to be 100% truth. Expect it to be like they handle the alien knowledge coming out, to not give you the whole truth, but to use it to move you in a direction.
Wow. It's so much. I mean, do you think there's actually physical giants within the earth like that? Like Gibborim and tribes like that?
Well, yeah, I think you have to be open to that. I know that's a bit of a dodge. Somehow, some way, giants are going to influence the end time because nothing is new under the sun.
I
You know, you
agree.
had right. You had them at the time of the flood in the days of Noah. Noah lived 350 years after the flood. You had giants in Sodom and Gomorrah both before and after the flood. Yeah, it's going to be the same
Yeah.
somehow, some way. So descendants. somehow scientifically modified heroes, so to speak, as we would understand that as superheroes today,
Yeah.
and or survival of giants or recreation of giants. Somehow, some way, I think we're going to see it. So technology might be the key for survival. Not only were they in possibly in a different dimension, but you could also imagine stasis chambers or sarcophagi, just as those are in polytheist mythos, had the ability to heal and to regenerate and to sustain life for long periods of time. Maybe they were in stasis of with using technology. And certainly we get a lot of rumors and stories about Nephilim in chambers
Yeah.
all over the place. And then when you have that FOIA request by Hillary Clinton in her office to get the burial chamber and uh,
Yeah.
and technology of Gilgamesh and likely DNA that would be in there, there's a reflection in that was a classified document that they took. Why wouldn't the sarcophagus of Gilgamesh be on display
Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
great find
It's a good point.
versus being
Be
classified
one of
and
the biggest
only the
archaeological discoveries ever.
yeah, because they want the technology. They're trying to develop that, trying to develop also the DNA. So technology is going to be part of that, I think, as well, what's down there. But obviously, a significant entrance into the underworld, the other world, and when hell.
Yeah. Well, I know when there was those democratic changes in 1989 in Europe, like places like Bulgaria, they started doing projects like they were digging deep beneath the ground in Bulgaria. I think it was called
Yeah,
Operation Sunray or something like
yep,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, and they were looking for some kind of technology. And then there was another cave in Bulgaria that they said that the goddess Bast was buried in or something, right? The goddess, right? So, yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible what is just people are talking about nowadays, and it's incredible the fake news that's out there. It takes away
Yeah.
from everything, but
Yeah, and there's literally a classified blanket over Antarctica. But clearly there's been way too much interest there. And I think it really ramped up starting, with Admiral Byrd from a
yeah,
military aspect. But the Nazis were ahead of us on this.
for sure. I think we just sent Admiral Byrd in there because what we heard from the Nazis, what we learned from them. Right?
Yeah. And what's also interesting about the first exploration into Antarctica, where he finds the first entrance, is the year 1947. What happens in 1947? Two major things that I can think of: Roswell and the Declaration of Independence in Israel.
That's right. That is the same year as Roswell too.
So what are the
And
connections there?
Israel.
Again,
Oh
I'm
my God.
speculating. Yeah.
Yes.
That was I mean, they had the war in 1948, but they declared independence in
Yeah.
1947. So I don't look at these types of things as
Wow.
coincidences in how this world works, because there aren't coincidences like that.
Yeah, that is crazy. And yeah, that book that I showed you before, The Coming Race, that was from 1871.
Yeah,
Yeah. And there's subterranean Edward Bueller Lytton was the guy's
yeah,
name.
right.
Lord.
And he said it's the reptilians are that race, if I
Yeah,
remember
it's
what you
like
said earlier
they're
on the
called the
show.
Vril-ya. They're like a humanoid being,
Vril-ya,
but they
yeah.
had reptilian features. Like,
Yeah.
and yeah, they were tall and they described even as being beautiful winged, some of them.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, if you could also look at that from two other aspects, is that the original giants, where most of them were created from, had a reptilian look, because they looked like their celestial mafia godfathers. They looked
Yes.
like seraphim angels, which were dragon angels. They
The
were
visage the
serpentine faced
visage of a
angels with
serpent,
six
right?
wings.
Yeah.
Yeah, a plumed
Visage of a
serpent.
viper.
Yeah. So, and we get these god images all over the world. So Now, if you're looking at, is it Vrilim or Vril-ya?
It's Vril-ya. It's spelled Vril-ya. Vril-ya.
Vril-ya, yeah. So at Vril, and then we have a suffix on that. Um, what's interesting is Vril means something mysterious in the blood. That goes back into history. And it's a
Wow.
Rosicrucian doctrine that this is the holy sort of blood of the demigod and angelic bloodline. And so typically you're going to get a suffix that's going to go with it. It changes in the various cultural languages, like you might have a after Dra- or like Dracula with the a. It means son of a dragon, right? And dragon Draconta, and Dracont in Greek means a watcher, as in a watcher angel, right? Um, it's the I am male plural that was the international ancient suffix for the majestic bloodline coming from the gods. We see that in Hebrew, we see that in some of the other earlier languages. And you have as an I am suffix for seraphim, cherubim, ophanim, um, gibberim,
What about when they do the
nephilim,
IN?
rephaim.
What about when they do the IN like Irin?
Well, that's a transliteration generally used from Arabic where you get the N that comes in there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and just as you have like a God or an angel, EL biblically, it can be AL,
Yeah.
transliterated in other language. It can be IL, can be ILU. And other variations as well. It's
Yeah, in
just how,
Sanskrit they use ILA, Ila or
yeah,
ill. Yeah.
yeah, same root word, that's common in all the early languages, but as the languages develop, you get additions into it, and they get transliterated, changed a bit,
Yeah.
and or because it was all sort of phonetic, and then it gets written down, right?
Yep.
So, and that's going to change. So, yeah, Vril was a Rosicrucian ideology that this is the blood of the demigods and the giants. And so, what the Nazis were trying to do with their Vril ideology that and Volkisch ideology that was overlaid on Grail ideology to create Ariosophy, which was the name of their religion, a derivative of Theosophy that's kind of
Wow.
rogue and has its own unique dynamics of it. They were trying to recreate the DNA of the giants.
It's crazy. Yeah,
And they
he had to have
believed,
been influenced by this book, Hitler. It was before his time.
oh, absolutely, he would.
Yeah.
And because you have theosophy being created in that period, which is going to be very popular within the Rosicrucian and Theosophical movement, that's going to create the Nazi movement that ends up, you have several orders like the Germanen Orden and the more common one, Tula or Thule
Yeah.
society that is going to, Nazis, that Hitler's going to be drafted into and initiated. So, yeah, you have this understanding that they wanted to uh, backward engineer or forward engineer blood and DNA to recreate the blonde hair, blue-eyed Aryans of Tula or Atlantis of the antediluvian world because they believe they descended from them.
So can you
And
get Tuatha connected to Tula?
sure you
Yeah.
can. And so with the I'll come back to that. And with the Nazis, Hans Horberger was a main proponent, and he was a famous astronomer in Germany at the time, and he believed that the original peoples were giants, and that the Germans were descended down through that, and
Wow.
and so that's sort of um, the knowledge sort of dynamite that they were trying to use to make all of this go, which again fits perfectly with going for after all of these Grail Hollows and Ark of the Covenant and things like that, that they've created a special society, scientific organization dedicated to find, right? Okay, Tuatha De Danann. Yes. These are the tribes of Danu, right? These are the Seed people, the Shay people, Sidai or Sidhe, which is the word for shed as a disembodied spirit. Their other world is a place called uh, the Sade or the Shay in one of its understandings.
Oh,
And
that's so
so,
close to the Sanskrit siddhi.
yeah, it's the same. As you take that back to Sanskrit and Aryan, it's the same. These are just
Oh,
transliterations of
crazy.
this. It is. When you understand what is held in the etymology of our words, it
Yeah,
just opens up all sorts of
amazing.
different things. So they also called it, as I said earlier, Magnell, but the Shay people are the Tuatha De Danann. And if people want to Google, and it's spelled again Sidhe, pronounced 1,000 different ways, so don't get caught up on the pronunciation. Riders of the Shay, Sidhe, you're going to see this image of these people that look like the white elves in Lord of the Rings, the tall ones, right? Blonde hair, blue eyed, some red haired ones in there with hazel eyes, riding white horses. Unicorn horses is what the giants wore. And these horses have this gold helmet on or face mask on it, and it's got a horn sticking up to represent the unicorn. You have the serpent imagery all over the place in it. A very famous painting. Like they don't hide it. They just know we don't understand what they're talking about. That's the riders of the Shay. That's the Tuatha De Danann. They were the fair folk. These are
I have that
yeah.
picture you're describing in a book. It's
Yeah, yeah,
incredible.
you're
Yeah.
just imaging it. So the Tuatha De Danann has a lot of different transliterations in it. And understanding languages and how letters are pronounced, I mentioned G and K in Sumer and Akkadian are the same word pronunciation, which is why you will get different spellings, right? Um, so when we look at another one that's very common for that is a D and a T. They're interchangeable. So if you have Aten in Egypt, that's the same as Adon in as an Adonis or as an
Yeah.
Adone, sort of biblically. It's the same. They're just different letters in different languages used for the same sound. So if you understand that, you have the Tanu, which is the assembly of the giants answering to the Baalim council who created these Rephaim giants, Ditanu. You also have Anu in there. This is the Tanu, and you could have that as the Danu if you wanted to, right? And the Tuatha, the Tanu or the Danu. So same word. These are the giants, and that if you had just drop off of Ditanu now the U, which is just a suffix that's used a lot of times like an or anu, right, as in the parent god and or heaven in Sumeria. Uh, and you understand the transliteration that the D and the T are the same, all of a sudden the word Titan comes to mind. It could be two T's instead of two D's, as
Oh,
in
yeah.
Dadan or Tatan,
Wow.
right? And then we get Dadan as the word in Hebrew, which is the same as Datan or Titan. It's just the transliteration of the different languages.
Yeah, and they do like sound shifts, you know?
Yeah. And so now all of these races are connected with Hollow Earth or the underworld because they all went back and forth,
For
and their
sure.
spirits also did.
Yeah. And they seem to build a lot of their special temples in volcanic regions.
Yeah, that has another, and particularly as the the Roman, Italian, Etruscan heritage comes from, and so when you get writings like the Inferno, that's kind
Yeah.
of in that sort
Yeah.
of image. But just look at the word inferi, Inferi, as one of the names that comes out of that Italian, Latin, Etruscan name, and Avernus, the place of fire, basically, right? The place of volcanoes, and so yeah, that's a common understanding.
Yeah. People in the chat room said that I love you guys together. This podcast is the best. They're saying that we're a good duo. And then some people are making comments like, yeah, asking questions. Yeti, Bigfoot, are these descendants from the giants? These are good questions.
Well, I think so. I think so. In their common legacy, both before and after the flood, on all continents, all around the world, except for Antarctica, and we don't know what's there yet. But I'm sure we're going to find the same types of connections. So it's
And most
part of
likely
that.
connected to today's topic, the inner Earth, the hollow Earth. You know.
Could very well be because a lot of them escape into caves
Yeah.
and disappear,
Yeah.
right? So they could have either a hollow earth physical location or again as a portal location. And they're associated with the elementals all around the world.
Yes.
So this, and what's also interesting is that in Pistis Sophia, in I think it's chapter 126, it has, and this is a Gnostic gospel, it has this dungeon, this prison, where these rulers, archons, angels are located, and it gives descriptions of them. So, yes, you get ones that are serpentine like, but you also get one of a bear.
Wow.
So now, if you and biblically, we don't get all of the descriptions of what all of the orders of angels look like. We know what a seraphim looks like. We know what a cherubim looks like. We know what an archangel looks like. We know
Ophanium.
what an ophanium looks like based on Ezekiel 1, 3, and 10. And that's the one in the wheels and has one of the
Yeah.
faces of is a cherub, throne angel. And we know what angels at the bottom level is the messenger, ambassador, minister angels do, what they look like, because they make representations of themselves as well on the earth, and we have those descriptions biblically. So we know what they look like. But we have Dunamis, we have Icarus, we have Excusia, and we have other ones. I won't go through them all, but there are names that um, we don't have descriptions for. We might know those as powers, principalities, dominions. Cartacci is another one that is used for terms. And it's very confusing because as you take that back to the Greek, the translators conflate some of them as the same and use them differently. And it's the same word, and they use different words for the same word. So it gets very confusing, and that might be done on purpose. I don't
It's
know. I'm
really, yeah,
just,
I think it
yeah.
is.
So you have to get it to the Greek to understand them. And I give these different orders that are listed in the hierarchy in book 2. So if people want to dig deeper into that, but we don't know what they all look like. But yet we get like a howling god, like Anubis. But we get the howling god. We're not told what that one's looked like in the Old Testament. Probably the jackal god, just as Nebaz is depicted as a Avim god worshipped in the Book of Kings, Second
Like a
Kings.
cynocephaly.
Yeah, it's connected to that because Nebaz is a barking god and has a
Yeah.
dog's head and a human's
Yeah.
body, just as Nergal has the lion's head as part of the cherubim uh, giants. So we don't know what some of those ones look like. So they could look like all these different other ones that are shown in Pistis Sophia. So they have a face of one has a face of a boar. Um, so
Wow.
yeah, so and they have faces of lions in there. They have faces of birds in there. They just like it's just and they all have specific names that the Gnostic. They're not ending in el, so there's probably some sort of Greek derivative in terms of the source wording based on how I look at the name structures in there to reflect that sourcing of how they've named them. But it's absolutely eye-opening that they would have these different faces that appear in the pantheons all around the world.
It's incredible. Really is. It's really incredible. They have a word in the Bible. I think it's called Dudael or Cauldron of God. I think it's called.
Yeah, that's in the book of Enoch, not
Oh, it's
in
in
in the
Enoch.
Bible.
Sorry.
Yeah, Dudael.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what do you think this is? Do you think this has to do with inside of Earth or around Earth or something like that?
Yeah, and just say that sort of descript the definition that you did with Dudael, because I thought you hit it on. Say
It's
it
like
so
a
people can.
cauldron of God, maybe, right?
Yeah, a boiling fire or a something very hot of God,
Yeah.
Dudael. Um, so Dudael is thought to be the lake of fire that's located in Sheol. Um, and it's where the fallen angels are going and the demons and those who take the mark of
Oh,
the beast.
yeah.
So, yeah. So, and what is not done well in the translations in the Hebrew or the English or the Greek to English is we get this term hell. Well, that, you know, includes everything that's talked about in the underworld, and including Gehenna as it's overlaid as an allegory for that lake of fire. But we have in this other world the lake of fire, maybe located somewhere else, but it seems like it would fit into the lake of fire. Um, and you have Tartarus, or as it's called biblically, or the pit prison or the abyss prison that's in Sheol. And so you also have Sheol or Hades or Arcata or the thousand different ways. So there's these three different locations, and they're all described in the book of Enoch in the earth.
Yeah. All different names too.
Yeah. And so what happens in the translation, you get the word hell. You don't know which location they're talking about specifically unless you look up the Hebrew word.
Yeah.
So it's going to be Sheol or Hades, or it's going to be, words for the lake of fire, or it's
Duwats
going to
or
be the
whatever.
prison, right? Yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like it's crazy on how badly the English translations are done that they're trying to dumb us down on
Yeah,
some of
it's
this.
that's 100% Gary. You hit the nail on the head with that. It's like it's almost yeah.
It's that hidden history that's being suppressed, and everybody says, "Oh, that's a conspiracy theory." Well, why would you convert hell into
Yeah.
to talk about three different places? It's crazy when they have different sort of meanings. When what's so important about hell? There is a connection there between hell and possibly a motivation as to why they would want to name different places as hell. So in the Nordic version of the other world, you have um I always trip my tongue over on this. It's Svartalfheimr, which is the tough one to say, so I got that one off the table first. Valhalla, which is seemingly uh, different than Svartalfheimr and or Helheim.
Yeah.
So we have three different names. Are they talking about one location, two locations, or three locations? But look at Helheim. Well, that's the same place as described in Germanic, which is Tuatha De Danann, just as Norse are Tuatha De Danann originally.
Yeah, they have like
Uh,
Niflheim, right? Or something. Yeah.
you know,
Niflheim.
well, that's in the Norse, Niflheim.
Oh,
Yeah,
That's North,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah. But still related because it's
Yeah.
just an extension of the expansion after the flood of the settlements. So, in German, it would be Hel, just hell, singular. Hell is the English etymological root for the word hell with two L's. Now, here's what really blows your mind for me as a Christian as I look at this is in Isaiah 14:12, it says, Lucifer, son of the morning. That is Hail El Ben Shakar in Hebrew, Hail El, the god of hell.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, understanding the language and the
Wow.
locations and the history, when you put those pieces together, it starts to make sense.
That's incredible. Yeah, we didn't even really get into Tartaria. That's related. All that's related too.
It is, and it's a different nuance, and why Tartarus is a separate topic when we talk about these things in the Hollow Earth series. When we started off at the
Yeah.
beginning, there's different nuances interrelated in the understanding. So, um, if I can, if you'll allow me, I won't go through them all, but
Yeah, go ahead. We
I,
have a
I
few
would
minutes.
just like to reiterate, just for the Christians that are out there today, on this topic is talked about throughout the Bible. This is not a small topic in the Bible. You just haven't been taught to recognize what's going on here. So, like in Philippon in 2:1, you have the line, all bow down to Jesus in heaven, on earth, and in the earth, and under the earth. That's kind of bizarre because you have a separation of on the earth and under the earth. And that means subterranean as you take the words back to the Greek on that. And and it's the world as it's defined belonging to the spirits. You just can't make some of this up. We have 1 Peter 3 where Jesus, when he's in the grave, he goes and talks to the spirits in the prison. We have in 2 Peter 4 the word Tartarus show up for hell, related to the angels who
Yeah.
sinned at the time of the flood.
Yeah.
Ephesians 4 8 and 10, you have Jesus who descended into the lower parts of the earth,
Wow.
right? And that's connected
Wow.
to First Peter. It's part of the same event. That he's going to make a spectacle, as it's talked about in Colossians 2, of these beings. And if you want to read the full detail, Paul is quoting Psalm 68, where they're going to parade all of these evil spirits and pronounce judgment on them before sending them back, because Jesus is going to resurrect on the Sunday and the rebellion is officially over. Their punishment will come into the future as in the end time as things play out. But he's in the underworld and he's parading them out to Mount Hermon. It's absolutely
Incredible.
eye-opening and shocking. You have Matthew 16:18, where Jesus is creating his church with Peter. He's at Mount Hermon, at the foot of Mount Hermon, and he's
Yeah, on the
at the
foothills of Mount
gates of
Helmet.
hell,
Yeah.
Hades.
Yeah.
And he's declaring to them that he's going to build his church and making a pre-announcement for what's going to happen after he's crucified. Right? They just don't know that yet. What else? We have Revelation is full of some of the references. Jesus has the keys of hell or Hades and death and Thanatos. In Revelation 12, it talks about the inhabitants of the earth and the sea. He's not talking to the fish here unless they're
Yeah.
intelligent, sentient beings.
Yeah.
Revelation 5 3,
Cosmic
no
sea.
man in heaven or in the earth or under the earth.
Whoa.
Yeah, you just can't just gloss over some of the details of that. And it has the same language that also includes in 5:13, no creature as well. So there's something else going on with those beings that are in the earth and under the sea. So we need to, and of course, Revelation 9 has the description of these beings that are coming out of the pit prison in the end time. So Exodus 24, last one, do not make images of anything in heaven, earth, or under the earth, or in the water. It's
Incredible.
perfectly consistent with there's something else in the earth and in another dimension. And the only place we get a lot of detail on that biblically, if I can say that, is in the book of Enoch. And then if you want more details, you go to how it's described in other sources around the world. But you'll soon quickly learn that they're talking about the same places.
Incredible. We have almost 100 people watching too. Pretty good. Pretty good. Thank you so much, Gary. I really appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, it's
Really
fun to do
excited.
some of these shows, that's for sure.
Yeah, and
And again,
we are a dynamic duo of this topic for sure.
yeah, and hopefully to encourage people to research further, both biblically and otherwise. And here's the other thing: I'll just leave on in the book of Enoch again. It's talking about in chapters 72, 1 through 37, the portals of heaven. So there's portals. So and in 36, 1 to 4, and the portals of Sheol in 36, 1 to 2. So Enoch is talking about these portals in the same way the Ugaritic texts or the Sumerian accounts or the Greek accounts talk about it.
You
And
like Enoch
so,
1 the best, right? I would say I would recommend that.
yeah, it's the closest thing we have directionally with the Bible. We don't have a complete Hebrew manuscript that goes with it. There may be some additions later down the road in there. Um, and there are a few corruptions in there that sort of stray, like the angels building the ark. That's a Gnostic corruption that would have been put in there. But Alexander Bruce, who did the first translation of the Ge'ez version out of Ethiopia, was descendant of Robert the Bruce, a Gnostic and a Freemason.
Now,
um,
because
uh,
I spoke at a conference last
yeah.
weekend, and somebody was speaking there saying that there were many arcs.
Well, that's what polytheism says. Absolutely. Um, so in each of the civilizations as that go, there's an arc. So, even the seven sages of India um, are on an arc, right? And that
Yeah.
seven sages is part of that sort of mythos as well, along with the flood. But you have an arc in the Epic of Gilgamesh in the Sumerian traditions. You have an arc in the Greek tradition with well, let me just finish off with the Sumerian one. How do we know this is an arc and these are demigods? Well, in the Indian version, it's very clear. These are, the Raja, the royals, the kings. And in the Epic of Gilgamesh, not only is the second creation of Enkidu and Gilgamesh, but also Utnapishtim and all his family, they're all two-thirds god, one-third human. That's a demigod. That's a giant. The demigods in the Greek story of the flood survive in an ark with Pyrrha and Deucalion as the male. Deucalion is the son of Prometheus,
Wow.
giant.
Yeah.
And so you get ark stories or canoe stories all over the
One who
world.
stole the fire.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
gave it to humans, gave the knowledge.
Yep. Yep.
Might be closely related to Azazel, perhaps.
Yeah. That's another thing too, is Azazel Semyaza.
Yes, I think they're the same.
I think they're the same, just
Yeah.
different,
Yeah. I
you know.
mean, you have uh, you have Shemiyaza with understood as Azza at the end, AZA, which has part of the Azazel name
Yeah.
that's in
Oh
there.
yeah, it's right there.
And Shem or Sem, because you can have it spelled with an H or without the H, is the Hebrew word for renowned and or heavenly, as in Shema. And so when you have the men of renown in Genesis 6:4, that it goes back to both Shema for heavens in the singular, Shemaim, heavenly ones in the plural, as you would apply that to the
Wow.
gods or the stars, and or renown. And so now you have Asa, which means strong, mighty, powerful. As is another word that has of the same meaning that connects back to goat in its
Yeah.
Hebrewic source words. And Azazel, El, that's the mighty one or the goat of God or both, as you get those definitions in there. And then you have within the understanding of the term that went in there is uh, Shemi. No, I'm not going to be able to pull this one up out of my mind, but there's an Arabic word and a Zen word for an angelic being, which is, I think, the Shem in there. So again, that's more of a title for Azazel as well as a
Yeah.
heavenly one.
It's like a title. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a
Very
document
interesting.
on this. If people want to get a hold of me, just be patient and I'll send you the information I have on that. And they
All
seem to
right.
have been conflated into the same role because they do the same things and and both are leaders. So
Yeah, I always thought so too. That was great, Gary. Yeah, if you want, you can send the information to me and I could share it with people if you guys want to share if you guys want to contact me. Gary, once again, it's great having you here. Maybe we can work out some other dates because I
yep,
think
I'll send you some other dates
for
here. Yep.
sure, for sure.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody. Love you all in the chat room. Thank you for coming. 95 people there right now. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Space Water Podcast, the one and only Gary Wayne, Genesis 6 Conspiracy.com. Get both of those books today and Spiral.